Hi, everybody. How are you this day? Beautiful day, this sunny day. My name is Juan. Welcome back to one special session of Growth Hacks Live. Today we have a great friend and a special guest, Yaag. And Yaag is, let me introduce you who is Yaag actually. This is really, really important for everyone to have very clear about what we're going to speak today. Yaag is the founder of SaaS Sprints, a content marketing agency of SaaS. He's an award-winning Indian marketeer, author, podcaster, and is among the top 100 global martech influencers. Yaag is also a TEDx speaker, an active member of the startup ecosystem, and is part of the Google for Entrepreneurs initiative. Probably some of you have been there already. And he was recently named as one of the marketing Mavericks by the World Marketing Congress. I'm so excited about having this conversation. Yaag, welcome.
Hey, thank you so much, Juan. I'm so happy to be here and looking forward to this conversation today.
Super. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time. Growth Hack Lives, indeed, is an initiative of Inspiral Growth to share the knowledge with the ecosystem of startups out there. And having you here is a great tool for everyone out there looking to know some of the most important topics for SaaS at the moment. So, Yaag, if I may say, maybe you could tell us a little bit also about SaaS Sprints.
Sure. No, absolutely. So SaaS Sprints is a very young content marketing agency. It's about 3 months old. I started this agency in April. So I have about 14 years of marketing experience overall, and the last 10 years have been primarily in the world of SaaS. And when it comes to SaaS marketing, my primary interest has always been content marketing. So if you look back at my career, it'll also explain itself in the form of podcasts, books that I published, and the events that I've been part of as a speaker, so on and so forth. But ultimately, it is about expressing your thought process in content in certain ways so that people can consume. And it's not always the content that comes in from me. Sometimes it's also as me playing the arbiter as a host and trying to glean in information from experts and share it with the world so that everybody learns and becomes 1% better every single day. And from there, it led me to the journey of building SaaS Sprints, a content marketing agency exclusively for SaaS organizations, where I primarily promote this concept called product-led content, which means you talk about creating content, but the idea is it's a lot of people these days think that, hey, just talking about my own company, my own product is actually very self-serving. It is self-serving if you do it in a bad way, but if you're focusing on the problem of the customers and show how it is solved using your product in the context of their problem, then it's magical. So that's the mission that I'm on.
Beautiful, beautiful. Indeed. And it's great to have a very clear vision and mission on what you want to accomplish, especially for SaaS, when we want to solve so many areas, which probably maybe will take me to one of my first questions. Yeah. So in the terms of the ecosystem of SaaS developers, SaaS companies, founders, what do you consider that the moment most of the companies are doing right that they should keep doing in this ecosystem?
So one of the primary things is that you need to focus on a very specific set of problems. People say that solve for a particular persona. I would say forget that for a minute. Focus on the right problem, and the right problem is this problem not clearly solved for? Or if at all, there are other people solving this problem, do you have a unique take as to how you want to solve it? We are in an era where it's not about me doing it better than somebody else, because everybody says that they are better, they are the best. But the thing is, how different is your point of view? How different are you looking at that problem, and what is your approach to solving that problem? Because you're always trying to attract a specific set of people who have that problem, but they are going to come to you because they believe in your ideology, they believe in your point of view, and they believe in how you look at the problem, because that's probably what is in their belief system as well. So ultimately it comes down to everybody who has a point of view and a specific approach to solve their problem, they should keep at that.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Indeed. Sometimes we even tend to see too much about what the competition is doing or what others are doing. We try to emulate everything. And sometimes we ask ourselves, like, why is not working to us? Why is that they're working and not to us? And it's because actually maybe we are just not focusing in the right even market or the right target. Or we are just chasing differences.
The interesting part there is that you can look at the competition. You should look at the competition. But the difference is that because a competitor exists, it's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. It's that, a competitor is validating for you that this problem exists and they also are there to solve that. But how different are you from them is what is going to actually help.
Exactly. Beautiful say. Beautiful say. Considering that, for example, if we see, for example, that point that check out your competition, but not in the sense of copying exactly the same thing, but finding your own way. What would you say as well that there is something that we SaaS companies are doing, where I myself include with one of SaaS companies that I own called Chamba, that do you think that we are doing wrong at the moment that we should stop doing?
Right. So, running after trends is something that I think is not something that is advisable for everyone. While you should be aware of what is happening in the market, but you should actually be more conscious about, does it make sense in the long run? For example, if you look at the way market has evolved in the last 3-4 months, everybody suddenly calls themselves, doing something about AI. They say they are SEO GPT, content GPT, this GPT, that GPT. But the point is, why are you, commoditizing yourself too much? At the end of the day, what is the difference that you are bringing to the table? What is the problem that you are solving and how we are solving it? The biggest problem that you should stop is that don't just look at what's happening and copying that. And also don't look at what your customer is asking for and just developing for that. The thing is, work on behalf of the customer and not on their request. And what I mean by that is, when a customer says that, hey, give me this solution, it's like, no, you have to understand what is that they're actually trying to solve. Tell me what is your problem. And you as a solution provider, you might have a better solution to that. And your customers are always going to be experts in their pain and not necessarily experts in their problems. Experts in their solutions. So listen to their pain, offer your solution, offer a better way, and be confident about how you're approaching it and how you're solving it. And just focus on that rather than getting carried away by every distraction that is coming up in the market.
Amazing. Indeed, I feel so, it resonates so much to me because in the first years of, I remember one of my first experience having working with a software developing company. We always just want to put technology out there to solve everything. But it's not only about just putting technology over there, but actually considering really, in fact, if that technology really solves the real issue at hand, like the job to be done, that they call it as well.
Exactly.
Great, Jan. And could you tell us a little bit also, for example, a case that has impacted you in the past with what a SaaS company has been doing in the market?
Yeah, so there are so many ways you can look at this. There are companies that have impacted me positively, and there are also companies that have impacted me from a negative standpoint as well. So, let me give you an example of Clubhouse. Clubhouse used to be a rage probably about 2-3 years back. And suddenly everybody was like thinking about, hey, I don't have an iPhone. Now what am I going to do? I'm really, missing something that's really happening out there. You're able to connect with different kinds of people and all of that. But 2 years down the line, now when you look at it, Clubhouse is no more the rage. Nobody's talking about it at all. Yeah. Right? So the thing is, yes, there is going to be something, but at the end of the day, what does it lead to? So I have this very interesting story that, I'm inspired by the story of this chocolate bar called Snickers. So Snickers did something pretty interesting. When they first came into the market, they were thinking that they were competing with a lot of other chocolate bars like Milky Way, for example. And they said that, hey, I'm also a chocolate bar. I need to be in the same space. But they started noticing something very interesting, that how customers were actually consuming their bar. So they went to airports, and every person who bought a chocolate bar of Snickers, they asked them a question: why did you buy this? What motivated you to do that? And the same jobs to be done that you were talking about. So this is what happened. Every person more or less said that, hey, my next flight is not for the next 2 hours or so. And, I don't have my currency that I can exchange so much. I have a bare minimum. So I wanted to buy something that is going to satiate my hunger for the next 2 hours so that I don't feel hungry. And with that, they came up with this positioning and strategy and campaign that you're not yourself while you're hungry. They realized that they're not competing with the other chocolates anymore, but they were competing with hunger. So ultimately, the lesson from all of this is that focus on what your journey is. Try and understand, how somebody uses your product. You would be surprised that, I, as a founder of this particular product, did not think that somebody could use this to solve that problem. So that's an eye-opening thing for me. The negative angle here is more that, sometimes you get too focused as to how the market is going, and you try to position yourself and start sounding like other competitors. This happens a lot in the world of CRM. This happens a lot in the world of, say, conversation intelligence tools, meeting assistant tool. You look at somebody else, if somebody positions themselves as revenue intelligence, every other company is also trying to categorize themselves that way. But the problem is, hey, you don't want to be a cheaper alternative to somebody else. You don't want to be somebody who offers 80% of what the market leader offers at 20% of that cost. That's not who you are. You're not going to stay a leader or become a leader by always competing on price. Look at your own point of view. Again, it all boils down to the top point that I said, have your point of view, have your differentiation, have your core focus, where you're going, understand your customer. And the beauty about marketing is that when you have the basics right and let it take its own manifestation, the fundamentals will never change, and it will always work. Yes, technology is important. You need to look at it. You need to leverage it, but the basics needs to come from you.
Oh, amazing, indeed. And well said. I think that we were talking the other day with one of the developers of IBM, I believe, and they were talking about like the situation with AI at this moment. And yes, everyone talking, for example, with ChatGPT, and it was like, well, 25 years ago, when Google started, around 2007, I believe. And then before that, we already were talking about the explorers, the search engines. Everyone was talking in the same way. Everyone was talking about like, oh, this is going to change completely everything. Or everything that we know about marketing, everything about what we're not going to sell is going to be completely taken out. It didn't happen like that. It was just adapted. The technology was adapted to the same processes, the same stages, framework, mentality. Because at the end, we're talking about people.
Yeah.
And the people react in the same way as if they have been doing it for the last hundreds of years. Just now it has to do with the speed, has to do with attention, and some of these changes that we have in that sense.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And Yaag, if I may ask you, please, something that I would like to know as well. For example, now, what would you recommend me, for example, us as founders and people working on SaaS? What should we start doing as well? What should we consider actually like a new habit for us to do?
A new habit is always, be aware of what is going on in the market and spend at least, probably at least 1 hour every week talking to the customer. And also realize that, you need to take everything that comes from the customer with a pinch of salt, in the sense that when the customer asks for something, it's not about they're stating their problem and you now know what to do. It is about going one level deeper and saying, oh, why do you say that? Can you give me an example? Okay, why did you come to this belief system? Tell me what led to this. So as you start peeling the layers of the onion, you actually try to understand what is this person saying, where is this person coming from, and what is this person going through? Why does this person think from this way? And this is the same thing even when this applies, even when you do a sales discovery as well. If somebody says that, do you have XYZ features? You immediately don't start jumping into, showing your demo and saying that, yes, here you go, this is the feature. No, ask, why do you want this feature? What are you trying to solve for? Where do you want to get? And funny enough, what I've often noticed is that, over the last 3-4 months, ever since I became an entrepreneur, I started doing a lot more sales. I've never done sales, in the last 10 years or so. And the beauty of this is that I realized that I don't have to sell 5 different things that I'm offering. I just have to listen to what is the most painful problem for this particular customer and just talk about those 1 or 2 things. And if they resonate with that, there's a 90% chance of you closing it. And the beauty is, the moment you know that this is resonated, don't sell further. It's just shut up and listen.
Excellent. Embody it. Embody what you're indeed.
Yeah.
I was hearing from Maple, one of these VC investors from Silicon Valley, that he was mentioning about, like, it's all about value hacking as well for him.
Exactly.
And once you got that, you are not really selling anymore. You are just being the ambassador of your solution and speaking about it, so people actually can understand how to use it more than you telling them how to buy it.
Yeah.
So very interesting, very good. Yaag, that has been amazing. Just if I may ask one last question, and I will thank you. I know that this is one question that I often get as well, and it approaches to SaaS. And it does in a way that it also affects these kinds of marketplaces, let's say, where SaaS is applied in a way. But it always comes with the question with, like, okay, you launch a marketplace. We launched a marketplace in South America, and we also had the same questions over and over again for months. And I get it also here in Europe, in the US. When you have a SaaS company, let's say a gig economy company, or a company that actually has two users, the final users and the supplier, which tips would you recommend in terms of where to start?
So I wouldn't say one is more important than the other, but I would start with first, getting both these people on board first, with the fundamental premise for any one particular use case. Say, what does the vendor want, and what does the supplier want? Okay, if we're talking about, say, somebody wants to get a job, okay, that's the only problem that you're trying to solve for. All I need to do is first get a set of opportunities that are available in the market versus the people who are looking for jobs or gigs, and connect these two. So a lot of times what we do as platform solvers is that, we are trying to solve as many use cases as possible for both the parties. And getting into this all-in-one mode is fantastic, and probably that's the way to do it going forward. But in the beginning, you need to prove yourself for at least one use case and become the best and capture the market. And once you capture the market, then you can expand further, because you are going to have a multiplier effect. Your audience and your users are going to bring in more users, but they will do that only if they are experiencing success with your platform. So solve for one problem for both of them, and then expand from there.
Excellent. Indeed. Just to tell you a little story about it. I was trying to learn how to focus on this one single problem, and how to learn from it. And I was learning from I was looking about the biggest Indian marketplace. I believe the name now, they changed name, but it's Urban. And then by using Clubhouse in the pandemics, I ended up meeting one of the persons that actually was launching Urban back then. And she, Beta, I believe, she took the idea and she decided, like, you know what, Urban helps everything. I want to focus only on pets. She says, like, right. I love my dog. I want to find someone that actually can take care of my dog, that can pet my dog, that can actually when I'm on holidays. So I decided to create my own platform. And then she said, like, and the way how I grew Juan Carlos is that I just started calling personally and spending at least 1 hour with the first 5,000 people that use my platform. It didn't matter if I already had success. I just wanted to talk 1 hour with each of them and understand really why they were using my platform. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, I love that. There's a lot of work for me to do. But great. Yaag, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your words. And we're going to make sure actually that to have all this information as well shared for everyone, all our listeners or subscribers, the communities where we are going to share as well for Growth Hacks Live. And Yaag, could you tell us a little bit how, if someone would like to get in touch with you, how they could do it, how they could contact you?
Sure. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to be here. And, those were some real great questions that made me think on my feet. And I hope it is helpful to the people listening in today. And for all the listeners, if they want to connect with me, the best place to find me is LinkedIn. So you can just type YAAG, Yaag, and, probably I'm one of the very few people with that spelling. So it's very easy to find me there, and I'm most active there. So happy to connect with anybody, and whatever little help that I can do, I'll be more than happy to be part of it.
Super. Amazing. Well, there we have it, everyone. Yaag, a pleasure. And thank you very much. All the love. Stay bold. Thank you so much. Stay hungry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day. Ciao.
Ciao. Bye-bye.